Hello, everybody. Hi. Let's see, got it. Hi, everyone. We are here to do some very festive UV resin jewelry projects, specifically earrings. So UV resin, if you haven't tried it before, here it is, little bottle, and it makes jewelry almost instantly. Like we're talking within just a few minutes, you can make yourself a custom pair of earrings. These are great for gift giving around this time of year. And so we have created several earring projects for you. We're going to do all of them within the space of this hour. And we made these super basic. So if you are an absolute beginner to UV resin, to resin crafting in general, to jewelry crafting in general, this is the class for you. All right, we can skip to the top-down camera here. And these are some of the earring projects that we're going to be making. So all of our projects, as I mentioned, super, super simple. We wanted to show you the basic building blocks of working with UV resin. So UV resin is used in two ways, usually. So we'll use it in a lot of ways, but the most popular ways for making jewelry are either to use it in a mold or use it in a bezel. And these projects here show you both of those basic methods. So these 4 projects are made with molds, and this project is made with a bezel. And so the bezel is just the frame. It's a metal frame, and you create within that. And things that come out of a mold, they don't have any type of a frame around them. So you can see like the resin, it goes all the way through on the edge. So these projects that we're making require us to sometimes just make one thing and connect it to an ear wire, or make 2 things. Here's 2 pieces connected together, or in this case, it's 4 things connected together. So we're going to show you how to mix up resin with color, with glitter, how to drill holes in it to make attachment points like this, how to add the hardware, what hardware you need, all of your basic supplies. So let me clear this out of the way and start talking about what those supplies are. We have a small group with us today. If you want to say hi, go ahead and pop into the chat and let us know where you're from. And if you are crafting along, we'd love to hear about it. So first of all, this is a silicone mold. You can see it says Blue Moon Studio on the side. There's a lot of different ones. These are all different molds that we're going to use today. And these are sold at Michael's. Everything that we're looking at, most of the things that we're looking at, I should say, are sold in the jewelry making department of Michael's. Now, you're also going to want to get some glitters. That is sold. There are some glitters in the jewelry making department, but they have a beautiful selection of glitters in their, it's like their general craft department. So starting with molds, then glitter. As I mentioned, you're going to need an assortment of different kinds of glitter. The UV resin itself, sold in a few different size bottles. You will need a UV resin lamp. This is a UV lamp. You can see I turned it on. This is powered by a USB cord, so you do need a USB power source. Then I have some tools. I have some wood sticks. I do have a little drill here, some basic jewelry pliers. This is a special tape that you'll need if you're working with bezels only, but we'll go over all that stuff. And then I do have some mixing bowls here. These are silicone mixing bowls. There's a little kit that they sell. It's a mixing kit. You get like the bowls and the little sticks and stuff, and it just has everything you need to mix. And then, of course, I always have paper towels here to the side for cleaning off the wood stick as I'm working with it, dipping into different colors, so they don't get mixed up. All right, so let's start with the simplest project, which I'm going to go ahead and say is this project. So for this earring, we're just making one thing and then connecting it to turn it into an earring. So let's start with this one. This uses a mold. And as I said, there are a ton of different molds at Michael's. And we're going to use this one. My mold is a little dirty because I actually use these, so it's got some little glitter on it. These get a lot of use. So we're going to use this round shape here. That's where this came from. It came out, it popped out of here. And the what is inside there are rhinestones. And so let me show you those. So these are just your typical rhinestones that you get in store. And if you don't have rhinestones, if you have some type of a chunkier glitter, like this is a confetti glitter that has, it's like a circle glitter. So that would be a great substitution if you don't have actual rhinestones. And there are about 1,000,001 things that you can put inside the resin. We'll go through what works to try to give you some inspiration. So let's get started. We have our bottle of resin here. And I just go straight into the mold, straight from the bottle. And I want to fill this mold about halfway. So I poured some product in there. It's clear, so it's going to be a little bit hard for you to see this first one. But I'm just going in with my wood stick and kind of moving that around and making sure it is filling the space. It's hitting all the walls of that space. And then I go in with my rhinestones or glitter. I'm actually going to use this glitter, I think. And so I can sprinkle it directly in. Ooh, I got a lot there. That's okay. I can sprinkle it directly in, or one by one, I can use my stick. If you wet the end of the stick, you can pick up a single piece of glitter like that and place it exactly where you want. But we don't need to be so exacting. We are just going to put those in there, kind of fill the whole space. And now notice I have not filled the mold all the way to the top. Because I'm going to do it, I'm actually going to cure it in 2 layers. So layers, when you're working with UV resin, are your friend. And the reason I'm going to cure this in 2 layers is because I've kind of already set those confetti pieces where I want them to be. And so if I went in and filled the rest of the mold right now from the bottle, it would push all of those away. So I just want to lock them into place. So here I'm going to bring my lamp in. I push the lamp. And this pushing the button once runs it for 1 minute, and then it automatically turns off. Since this is a pre-cure kind of a step, I'm just going to run it for 1 minute. Your total cure time ranges anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes, and it really depends on what you've put into the resin. So if you have put a lot of dark things, things that are blocking the light, then it's not going to cure as quickly, and you may need to run it for several cycles. Now, UV resin cures in UV light. UV light comes from the sun, so this product will cure in sunlight as well. If you have a sunny windowsill, you can set the product there and it will cure in 5, 10, 20 minutes. It depends on how cloudy it is, what season it is, and how many UV rays you're getting that day. All right, so this is still going. The light is still on, so that has not turned off yet. And there it goes. It just turned off. So here's what we have. You can see, I'm just going to kind of pop it out a little bit. You can see that it's mostly cured just in that 1 minute. But we still need to put the final layer on there. So I'm just going to fill the back of this till I fill the mold cavity completely. And this product is self-leveling. Let me just bring you in here a little bit. It's self-leveling, but I still like to go in with a wood stick and just make sure that it's reached all of the edges. There we go. All right, and now we're ready to just cure it again. All right, so while that's curing and while I am zoomed in here, you'll notice that these particular molds, this one you can see really well, have this little peg here. This silicone peg creates a hole in the top of your shape. And you're going to need that because you need a hole here in order to connect a jump ring and an ear wire to it. Okay. So that does it automatically. If your mold does not have a hole where you want it to be. So let me show you an example. Here's another mold, silicone mold. This is a hoop, sorry, not hoop, stud earring mold. So it's got a lot of different shapes, and none of these have that little silicone peg. So they're meant to be glued onto something, or you have to drill through them. You zoom back out here. All right, so that's gone for 1 minute. It has turned off. Just to be safe, I'm going to run it for another minute. And let's talk about how to turn what you've made into jewelry. You're going to need 2 things. A jump ring. Let's see, and I have lots of different size jump rings here. This is a really handy little wheel. You're going to need a jump ring and an ear wire. So here's an ear wire. Those are the 2 pieces that I need. All right, so this is not quite completed that 2nd minute. I'm going to go ahead and turn it off because I know that it's ready to come out. So this, you will notice when you pick it up, is a little warm, and that's normal. It does create a little heat when it cures. You can see I'm just pushing from the bottom and popping that up, and this is what you get. Trying to see where that hole is. Oh, there it is at the top. So that hole that it made, it makes a perfectly shaped hole. It's right there. And it's that easy. And you can add as much or as little glitter, rhinestones, confetti as you want, because I went ham on it because mine kind of spilled out, but I love the way that that looks. So I'm quite happy with that. Now let's turn it into jewelry. So here's our jump ring. I'm going to walk through how to use a jump ring for you newbies out there. And so a jump ring has a break in the top, so you want to situate your pliers. These are just little needle nose pliers at the break. And because this one is large, I can just use my fingers and hold it in place while I open it like that. That's how you open a jump ring. And then you thread that through. And also your wire. And then you're going to close it. You close it in the exact opposite way that you opened it. You just close it just like that. And there you go. There's our very first earring. Of course, you would be making 2 of these, so you would make 2 identical ones. But look how pretty that shines, and so simple and so easy. All right, project number 1 is done. So that showed you the basics of working with a silicone mold. Now I'm going to do some cleanup here. I think the easiest way to clean up any type of glitter is a little piece of Scotch tape. So I'm doing that. By the way, I am working here. This blue is a silicone mat. And those are also sold at Michael's. This is great because resin doesn't stick to silicone. That's why we have silicone molds and silicone tools. So it won't stick. Even if it cures on here, you can just clean it right up. All right, next project. Let's see, what do we want to do next? Okay, next project, very similar. In fact, I think this one uses the same mold, but let's pull out a different mold here just for variety. I love this mold. These are faceted gems, so you can see that the bottom of the mold is faceted, so those facets remain with the piece once it's cured. And for this, I need to mix up some gold glitter. So I'm going to take one of my mixing bowls here. And go into the mixing bowl with clear. And then I can add any color glitter. So here we're adding gold. And this is extra fine glitter. Chunky glitter works wonderfully too. Glitter flakes like these work beautifully as well. Any type of plastic or glass glitter is going to work wonderfully in resin. All right, so I'm adding some of that. I'm going to give it a little stir. Okay, and then I always have my paper towel over here. Wipe that off. All right, let's bring our mold back in. And I think I want to do this shape just because I like that shape. And so what we are trying to achieve here is this effect where the bottom has more concentrated glitter and the top is clear. So when I pour my glitter, I'm going to pour it just on the bottom. And I can also lift my mold up here just a little bit or put something underneath it to kind of tilt it a little bit. Let's see what I have here. How about another mold? I'm going to stack 2 molds. So tilting of your mold, that will make sure that when I pour that gold glitter in there, it's going to stay down here. And so I can use my silicone bowl, squeeze it together, and that creates like a funnel. All right, gravity's working for us here. And I'm actually going to kind of, I don't know, stretch this out. Is that what I'm saying? All right. All right, so now that I've done that, I'm going to quickly move this back to flat and then go in with more clear. When I put the clear, see how it's like pushing away that glitter too? So I'm putting the clear just on the top and adding a steady stream into the mold until I see that I'm getting to the top of it. And so just on its own, it kind of gave us that ombre effect just by using gravity to keep the glitter down here and then pouring more clear up here. So I'm actually not going to touch it. I'm not going to go in with a stick. I can see that it's filled to the top. I can see that, well, can I see that? You want to make sure that you have resin all the way around. Let's add another drop up there. Okay, and we're ready to cure it. Let's bring our lamp in. The lamp is available in a few different colors. It's also available in a flashlight style. So if I hit the button on the flashlight, you can see that also is UV light. Flashlights are really handy because if you know, the cord to this is only so long. So if you need to bring the light to your project rather than bringing your project to the light, this is how you do it, by using a little flashlight style. All right, and this one, we're going to cure it the whole way. In a simple ombre project like this, you don't really need to do the different layering steps. So just in one layer, we can get this piece going. And so while I'm doing that, let me see here. Okay, so that's gone for 1 minute. I'm going to hit that again to let that go longer. So the next projects that we're going to be doing are these, and these use several colors of glitter. The glitter here is used to tint the resin. So there's a lot of ways to tint resin. And in fact, in the jewelry making department, you will find these resin tints. And there's come in 6 different colors. I'm going to show you how those work just so that you know. In fact, I'm going to use this bowl here of my leftover gold glitter. Let me move this off to the side. So I have my leftover gold glitter. I'm just going to go in with a little more resin and 1 drop of red. These are very concentrated. And when you're making jewelry, you're only making a small amount of resin. So you only need usually 1, maybe 2 drops. And let's mix that up. And now we have a very festive looking red and gold glitter. All right, so that's how you use tints. Just a drop or 2 in a mixing bowl, and that gives you a beautiful color. All right, so this is gone for 2 minutes. This is what we have. It is a little bit warm, that's normal. And pushing from the bottom, you can see how easily it lifts from the mold. And it is completely cured. It's a hard glass-like finish. And we have our hole there at the top, and we're ready to turn this into an earring. So it's the same steps that we did before. We need one of these guys and a jump ring. This size that I'm working with here, this is about a 6 mm jump ring. In jewelry world, everything's measured in millimeters, so mm means millimeters. All right, so I'm just looking at this jump ring and trying to find where the break is. And it's up at the top. For this one, I am going to use 2 pliers since it's smaller. So I get 1 plier on one side, 1 plier on the other side. And then I pull one toward me, one away from me. That opens it. And close it up. So here is an ombre style earring using a faceted gem silicone mold. All right, 2 projects down. What time is it? It's 4:23. Okay. All right, so now we're going to get a little more complex in our projects. Things like this that require a lot of different pieces and a lot of different colors. So for that, I need to mix those colors up. So I'm going to keep this red one that I mixed up and use that. And I also need to mix up green. So I could add green tint, or rather blue and yellow tint, because you can mix them. But adding green glitter colors the resin and also gives you that glittery effect. This is the holidays after all. And how much glitter should you add? I always say you have to measure that with your heart. As much as you want. I have added so much glitter that it almost is like a sandy texture. But you definitely want to have enough. It depends. You could just have a tiny little sprinkle of glitter, and that'll give you more of a transparent effect. Or you can just dump it all in there, and that'll give you more of an opaque effect. All right, so we've got green and red. And I am going to switch to a smaller cup here, since that's what I have. And I have one more cup here that's a little dirty. All right, if you've just joined us, thank you so much for joining us. We are working on some UV resin Christmas earrings. If you have any questions, go ahead and use that chat function. We have folks ready and able to answer any question that you might have about this process. All right, so we're going to do this white iridescent glitter in one of them. Okay. And more gold in this one. And mix those up. So you do want to have a bunch of these silicone cups on hand when you're making more complicated designs or ones that with a lot of colors. Excuse me. And so here's that iridescent glitter. You can see it remains fairly transparent. If I wanted to bump up the opacity of that, excuse me, I could add a drop of white tint. So here's the white tint. Let me give it a shake. Excuse me. I'm just going to add one drop. So with tints, you do want to be careful. Completely opaque is not what we're looking for. We're looking for semi-transparent. So that's what we have. Excuse me, sorry. I think I inhaled some glitter. Oh, the tragedies of being a crafter. Okay. Let's go through my molds and see what I want to use here. Here we go. All right, so this is the mold that we're going to be using. So this mold is set up to make earrings. It makes an art shape earring, and it makes this rounded rectangle shape, which is here. This is what will come out of that mold. And then also it has these two, I call them earring toppers, because you want to have a little something that goes, that's a stud that goes through your ear. So let's look at the back of this. You can see it is more, it's a stud type earring rather than one that dangles from a French ear wire. And we've tried this several times. So this one just uses 3 colors. This one uses 4 colors. And you can see that it's not perfect. These colors of glitter are going to blend and move into one another without any very sharp lines. And so that is sort of just the nature of this project. If you want sharp lines, you have, it's a much more advanced process, but you can achieve things that look like this, that look like this. Do I have another one? Or that look like this. And we actually, last Christmas, we did an entire class on this process. It uses a bezel, and it uses small pieces of wire that we've cut custom to fit inside the bezel and put inside there. So it's a little more involved process. You have to essentially create compartments inside of a bezel. But if you're interested in seeing this class, it is up on YouTube, and we might have a link to that in the chat soon. All right, but let's continue with this. So we're not going to get perfect lines, as I said, but we still want to try to pour this where we have some separation between the color blocks. So I'm starting with green. And then I'm going to go into gold. And just really using the silicone bowl, squeezing that. in order to semi-precisely, I guess, pour into the mold. And then some of this red that we mixed up. And right now, I'm not really worried about filling the mold the whole way. I'm really just concentrating on getting the colors where I want them to be. And if the mold isn't filled up, then I'm going to fill that as a second layer. And finally, white. And now I can go in with the pointy side of my stick and kind of mess it around a little bit. Keep in mind that the view that we're seeing, this view of this mold, is not going to be the front of the piece. The front of the piece is actually underneath here. So what you can do is pick up the mold, and because it's clear, look underneath it, and you can kind of see what you're getting and see if you want to add more of any particular color. I think I'm going to add more gold. And a little more green. Giving it a little stir. Some of that glitter will settle to the bottom. So you want to give it a stir if it's been sitting for a minute. Okay. All right, now I don't want to touch this too much. I'm going to bring the lamp here and let's go ahead and cure it. Now, all of these little extras that I have, I want to keep them away from the light because that still has good usable resin in there, and I don't want it to cure just by accidentally being near that light. So I want to control when I cure that, and I want to use every last drop in a new project. So I'm kind of keeping these off to the side. You can put them under a cup or put them under a bowl or make a partition just so that none of those UV rays are hitting your liquid resin. Now I'm going to just pause that for a minute because I forgot to make the little earring topper. So let me scrape this out. So I've really scraped this as much as possible. Sorry. There we are. I've scraped this as much as possible. You're still going to have like a small remnant of resin left in there. The easiest way to clean up is just to cure this. Put it under the light, cure it. FYI, instead of trying to scrape that out, clean it out, just cure it. And then you'll be able to just pick it out. All right, so here's my improvised little earring topper. I am going to give this a little bit of a swirl. See if we can get kind of more of a swirl effect there. And let's cure. So for this set, I would probably cure this 3 to 4 minutes, just because I know that I put a lot of glitter in there and I've put some tint, so it's blocking a little bit of the light from this lamp. And so I just want to make sure that it's all cured. So let's keep that going. And I want to show you some other pieces that we've done. Starting with this mold, which is one of our most popular molds. It's for making hoop earrings. Let's move this off to the side while we do a little show and tell. So this mold makes hoop earrings that look like this. And how cool is that? These are seed beads that we've just poured into the mold and then poured resin in there. And then you have a seed bead hoop. This mold makes two sizes. This is the small size. This is the big size. And so this, we just use some glitter flakes in light pink. And then you do have to add the finding onto the end there. You just add that with more UV resin. You use it like a glue. All right, so those are super fun. Let me show you some other things over here. Here are some pieces that we haven't made into earrings yet, but they are ready for the jump ring. And these are just actual candy sprinkles that you would get at the grocery store. So if you have some of those in your cabinet, they work wonderfully with UV resin and make such a cool effect. I really, really like these. The other thing that is a classic to use with UV resin are dried flowers. So here are some bezels with some dried flower projects. So this one has some greenery and like a daisy style. And this one has same thing, greenery, but this one we added a colorful background. So this blue background, let me show you the back of it. It's not perfect, but it has a light blue background behind the flowers to help the flowers pop a little more. A full line of dried flowers are sold in Michael's in the UV resin section in the department, in the jewelry department. So lots of different flowers for you to use. These turn out so beautifully. One more I'll show you. This one we turned into a necklace. And this is just the clear with some greenery and one single flower. But you already, we didn't do our bezel project yet. We'll do bezels next. I'll show you how to use it. All the projects we've done so far are the molds. All right, so this is what we have. This went there for 3 minutes and it is ready to pop out. And this is what it looks like. Again, not perfect. It's not going to have those perfect lines. But if you're interested in making perfect lines, like I said, there is a class that we did last year for that. So here's what came out of the mold. You can see sometimes it'll have like an extra little piece of resin. I just go with my thumb and kind of scrape that off and it works fine. If you have any sharp edges, here's a little, I can just boop and it comes right off. If you have any like serious sharp edges, which is pretty rare, you can go in with a nail file, just knock off any sharpness. When things come out of a mold, they tend to have really smooth edges. Like all of these edges are smooth. This one, the edges are smooth, but you can see if I turn it, you can kind of see right there. There was an air bubble down inside that mold, and so it made this little air bubble right there. So that piece isn't perfect, but we're still going to use it because I want to show you the whole process. All right, so let's turn this into jewelry. We need, you guessed it, a jump ring. Always need a jump ring. And this one is actually already open, so let me use that. And then you have a decision to make at the top here. You can use the ear wire as we've used in the previous projects. This guy. So we'd be stacking these together like this. Or we can use something that looks like this, which is, it's a flat pad. And this is how you make stud earrings. And they're available, the pad itself is available in several different sizes. Here's this little smaller pad. And sometimes it also comes with the earring back too. And so I want to show you how to use this earring stud type instead of this type. Okay, so first I'm going to connect them with a jump ring, my pliers. Connect those two pieces together because this came out of a mold that already had the holes. Then it already has the holes that I need. I don't need to drill any. Closing that jump ring up. All right, so now our two pieces are connected together. And now we just need to add onto the back. And this is where we use the UV resin as an adhesive. It's a wonderful adhesive. My husband is a scale modeler. He loves to use UV resin like as a glue. And it's great because it'll stay liquid until you want it to be cured. All right, so you can see I just stuck that on with glue. Let's lock it in place and cure it. Sorry about that, bumped you. All right, so that's going. Next, I'm going to show you how to use bezels. So here's our bezel project. This bezel uses a few different kinds of glitter. But you can see it's in like a jewelry frame. Here's the back. And so bezels are available in lots of different sizes. They are sold something like this, where you get a few different shapes. There's simple shapes like these circles. There's also fancy shapes. We are going to be using an oval. All right, but before we do that, let's finish this one. So here it is. That backer is on there. And I have my earring back here, and we have a completed earring. Cool, that's 3. Okay, let's move on to bezels. Now, at the beginning of this class, I mentioned that there are 2 most common ways that people craft with UV resin. One of them is silicone molds, so I think you guys know how to work with silicone molds now. The second way are bezels. Now, when you're working with a bezel, there are a few preparatory steps that you need to take. And one is using this tape. This is a special polyester tape that's used with resin. And I have the sticky side up, and I place my bezel down on it, and I press it. I'm like pressing down because I want to have good contact between the bezel and that tape, because that contact is what makes sure nothing oozes out. Let's bring you in a little bit closer. Oh, come on. There you go. Okay, so prep steps. First is to cut a piece of that tape, put your bezel on the tape, and then you always want to do a thin, clear first layer. So I'm pouring just enough resin in there that I think will allow me to get it to the edge of the bezel. And I had some glitter on my wood stick here, and unfortunately it got glitter, but that's okay. We'll cover it up. So I'm just really bringing that resin to the edges. We want to make contact with the walls of the bezel, and then we pre-cure. So doing this step with the tape, with the thin layer, with the pre-cure, this just makes sure everything we do on top, we don't have to worry about like the structural integrity of this. We don't have to worry about things oozing out. We can take our time and create something beautiful. And so any type of pre-cure step, you really want to let it go just for 1 minute. Again, this is the earring that we're going to make, lots of different kinds of glitter. And I am going to take my own earring out and show you what I'm wearing. This is made with the exact same techniques that we're about to do, just with some pointy back rhinestones. Sprinkle it in there. So simple. So simple, but this looks like, you know, an expensive earring. All right, so that went for 1 minute. And now we're ready to add whatever we want in there, whether we're doing glitter sprinkles, sand, flowers, metal bits, just about anything we can put in there. But for this particular one, I'd like to use up what I have over here. So let's see, I have a little bit of this white left. So I'm going to put that in. We're going for a frosty, kind of a Christmas, wintry look. And then I want to add some silver glitter. I'm going to mix a little bit of silver just in the same cup. Here's my silver glitter. Okay, let me close this up before I spill it. An open jar of glitter is an empty jar of glitter. Okay, so we're going to put a little bit of that here in the middle. Kind of doing this in 3 zones. And then finally, we can add some glitter, silver glitter flakes. Those are fun. And I'm just using 1 cup. I'm using the same cup. Let's go in with some of those. Stir those around a bit. And plop those in. Just making sure they don't go over the edge of the bezel. And then I can spend my time and try to like really make sure all of these layers are where I want them to be, the little pieces of glitter where I want them to be. And the beauty of UV resin is it cures when you want it to cure. If I need to take a phone call, I need to take a break, walk away, this will still be in its same state when I come back. And then I can decide when I want to cure it. All right, I think this is ready. Bring that in there. And so what is actually happening when I turn that light on is a chemical reaction that's happening. And that is what is creating the heat. So you'll notice that it's a little hot. And you'll notice that more with the bezels because the bezels have metal. You'll be touching the metal. So you do want to let it cool before you handle it. All right, so I'm going to put this off to the side. We'll reveal what this is, what this looks like in its final form in a little bit. But I wanted to just quickly walk through this project here. So I think you're already familiar with the making of these small little dots by using a silicone mold. But what happens when you want to string them like this? You can see that each of these dots has 2 holes in it, one at the top and one at the bottom. So I'm going to use actually this bottom one to show you how to do that. I'm just unattaching that. Okay. So let's pretend that we just made this beautiful red dot. It has one hole at the top, and we need a second hole because we need to connect it to something else. And that's when this tool comes in handy. This is a hand drill, and you put the end is swivels. You put that in your palm, and then you can twist it, and that's how you drill through. So find exactly where you want it to go and start twisting. So you can see it very easily just like bores out a little hole. Here we've already popped through the back. And there you go. It has both attachment points on there for you to work with. Okay, let's come back to this. This has gone for 1 minute. I turned it back on. It's in the middle of its second minute. Let's turn that on again. So we are wrapping up here. If you have any burning questions that you have wanted to answer in the chat, but you've been afraid to, now is your time. I hope that we have inspired you to try out this material. Hope we've removed some of the mystique around this material for you so that you can feel comfortable trying it out. And you may just make something beautiful. All right, so let's turn this off. Let's see what we have here. So it is a little warm, but all you have to do is peel the back off. You'll notice that the tape is a lot stickier than when you started. So that's why the use of regular like masking tape or packing tape is not recommended. This is a special tape. And this is what we have. So pretty. Just for one extra idea, I wanted to call out that we do have an alphabet mold, makes all 26 letters of the alphabet. You can do a special like mold plus bezel technique. Let's say I was making this for Christmas for someone and their name was Betty. I could make a bee in there and then put that bee on the front, and then it's a customized monogram necklace or earrings. So that is just another way in this Christmas season. If you do want to customize things, always nice to put a monogram on it. All right, guys, thank you for sticking with me this long. Appreciate it. Be on the lookout. We're doing UV resin classes on michaels.com. We're doing polymer clay jewelry making classes on michaels.com. So please check us out. And we'll see you next time. Thank you so much for joining us.